The lights inside the grand mansion were bright and golden. Soft music played in the background, and rich guests laughed loudly as they held glasses of expensive wine. It was a party for powerful people. Businessmen, social figures, and millionaires filled the hall. Everyone wore fine clothes. Everyone looked proud. Among all these rich faces, one woman moved quietly from corner to corner. She wore a simple black uniform. Her head was slightly down. Her steps were careful. She was the maid. Her name was Amara. Amara cleaned tables, picked up empty glasses, and followed orders without making any sound. Most people did not even look at her. Some saw her, but only as part of the furniture. To them, she was invisible. At the center of the room stood Mr. Richard Hale, the owner of the mansion. He was a famous millionaire, tall, confident, and loud. People gathered around him because he had money and power. He liked attention. He liked control. Richard was talking about art, music, and dance. He laughed and said, "Tango is not just a dance. It is power. It is class." People nodded and smiled, trying to impress him. Then Richard looked around the room. His eyes stopped on Amara as she passed by with a tray. He smirked. "Hey you," he said loudly. The music became softer. Some guests turned their heads. Amara stopped walking. She slowly looked up. "Yes, sir?" she asked in a calm voice. Richard laughed and pointed at her. "Do you even know what tango is?" Some people laughed quietly. Others looked uncomfortable, but said nothing. Amara stayed silent. Richard continued, "People like you clean floors. You don't dance tango." More laughter filled the room. Amara felt the heat of shame, but her face stayed still. Her hands did not shake. Her eyes were calm. Richard raised his glass and said jokingly, "Let's make this party fun." He stepped closer to her. "If you dance tango with me tonight," he said loudly, "I will marry you." The room exploded with laughter. Someone dropped a glass. Someone started recording on their phone. Some guests clapped, thinking it was funny. Amara stood there, surrounded by mocking faces. Inside her chest, memories moved quietly. Pain, strength, silence. Richard expected her to cry or run away, but she didn't. She looked at him straight in the eyes. The room slowly became quiet. "I will dance," Amara said softly. People gasped. Richard laughed again. "You? Dance tango?" he asked. Amara lifted her chin slightly. "Yes." Richard waved his hand. "This is a joke. You don't belong on the dance floor." Amara spoke again, her voice steady. "If I dance," she said, "you must keep your word." Now the room was silent. Richard froze for a second. He did not expect that answer. People looked at him, waiting. He smiled to hide his surprise. "Fine," he said. "Dance. Let everyone see." Amara nodded once. She placed the tray down carefully. Her hands were calm. Her steps were slow as she walked away from the crowd. People whispered, "She is crazy. She will embarrass herself. This will be funny." Amara walked into the hallway. The noise of the party faded behind her. She stopped near a small mirror on the wall. She looked at her reflection. For a moment, the maid uniform did not matter. Her eyes showed something else. Strength, confidence, history. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Back in the hall, Richard laughed with his guests. "This will be the best joke of the night," he said. The music changed. A tango song began to play. Guests turned toward the entrance of the hall. They waited. Some smiled. Some mocked. But no one was ready for what was about to happen. The maid was coming back. The music played softly in the grand hall, but Amara was not there yet. The guests waited, whispering to each other. Some laughed. Some checked their phones. For them, this was only entertainment. Behind the large doors, Amara stood alone in a quiet room near the kitchen. The sound of the party felt far away. The bright lights, the rich voices, the mocking laughter, all of it faded for a moment. She slowly removed her cleaning gloves and placed them on a small table. Her hands were steady. Amara looked down at her uniform. It was old and simple. It was not who she truly was, but it was what life had given her. She took a deep breath. Her mind traveled back in time. Years ago, Amara was not a maid. She was a dancer, a respected one. She remembered a small dance studio with wooden floors and large mirrors. She remembered music filling the air and her feet moving with power and grace. Tango was not just a dance to her. It was her voice. It was how she spoke to the world. She remembered applause. She remembered lights. She remembered dreams. But life had changed quickly. One night, everything was taken from her. A false promise. A broken trust. A decision made by powerful people who never cared about her name or her talent. She lost her place. She lost her chance. She lost everything. After that, the world became cold. No one asked about her skills. No one wanted her story. They only saw her skin, her clothes, her silence. So she worked. She cleaned. She survived. Amara opened a small locker near the wall. Inside was a pair of old dance shoes. Black leather. Worn out but clean. She touched them gently, like touching a memory. "These shoes still remember," she whispered. She slipped them on. They fit perfectly. Outside, the guests grew louder. "Where is she? Is she scared? This is taking too long." Richard stood near the dance floor, smiling confidently. "She won't come," he said. "She knows her place." But deep inside, something felt strange. The room felt tense. Too quiet. Too focused. Back in the hallway, Amara tied her hair back neatly. Her face was calm. Her eyes were strong. She was no longer just a maid. She was a dancer again. She walked toward the doors of the hall. Each step felt heavy, but powerful. As the doors slowly opened, the light from the hall spilled inside. Music became louder. Tango music. Deep and serious. The guests turned their heads. Whispers stopped. Amara stepped into the room. The maid uniform was still there, but the way she walked had changed. Her posture was straight. Her steps were confident. Her eyes were focused. People felt it. Something was different. Richard looked at her and laughed. "Are you ready to embarrass yourself?" he asked. Amara did not answer. She walked to the center of the dance floor. The music slowed. A few guests felt uneasy. "This doesn't feel like a joke anymore," someone whispered. Amara stopped in front of Richard. She lifted her hand slightly, inviting him. Richard hesitated. For the first time that night, he felt unsure. But pride pushed him forward. He placed his hand in hers. Her grip was firm. The music grew stronger. Amara took the first step. It was clean, sharp, perfect. The room went silent. Richard's smile slowly faded. This was not a maid's step. This was a professional move. Gasps filled the room as Amara turned, her movements smooth and controlled. Every step matched the music. Every turn told a story. Richard tried to lead, but something unexpected happened. She was leading him. The guests stared in shock. Phones lowered. Laughter stopped. "She's incredible," someone whispered. Richard's face changed. His confidence cracked. Sweat formed on his forehead. He realized something dangerous. He had made a promise. And the woman in front of him was not who he thought she was. Amara's eyes met his. They were calm, strong, unbreakable. The music continued. And with every step, the truth came closer. This dance was not a joke. It was a challenge. The tango music grew deeper and stronger, filling every corner of the grand hall. The sound was slow, sharp, and powerful. It demanded attention. Amara moved first. Her foot slid across the floor with confidence. Her body followed the rhythm like it was part of her blood. Every step was clear. Every move had meaning. The guests watched in silence. No one laughed now. Richard tried to smile, but his lips felt heavy. He followed her steps, but something felt wrong. He was supposed to lead. That was how tango worked. That was how life worked for him. But tonight was different. Amara turned smoothly, her movement clean and fearless. Her balance was perfect. Her back was straight. Her eyes were focused, not on the crowd, but on the dance itself. The music paused for a second. She stopped. Then she moved again, fast, sharp, and strong. Gasps filled the room. A woman near the stage whispered, "She dances like a queen." Another man shook his head slowly. "That's not normal skill." Richard felt his heart beat faster. His hand tightened, but Amara remained calm. She guided him with quiet strength. Each time he tried to take control, she gently shifted the direction. And it worked. The crowd felt it. This was not practice. This was mastery. Amara spun, her feet moving with perfect timing. Her shoes hit the floor in rhythm with the music. Her dress moved with her, simple but powerful. She was telling a story without words. A story of pain. A story of survival. A story of strength. Richard missed a step. It was small but clear. People noticed. He felt embarrassed. His face turned red. For the first time in years, he felt small in front of others. Amara caught his movement before he fell out of rhythm. She steadied him without showing effort. The crowd reacted with surprise. She saved him, someone whispered. The music grew louder, faster. Amara leaned back slightly, trusting him to support her. Richard did it, but his hands shook. The control was no longer his. Sweat ran down his face. This was not how the night was supposed to go. He had planned a joke, a moment of laughter, a show of power. Instead, he was standing in front of a room full of people, being led by the woman he had mocked. Amara's face showed no anger. No pride. Only focus. The music slowed again. The final steps came closer. She stepped forward. He followed. She turned sharply. He struggled, but stayed upright. Then, the final move. Amara stepped back, lifted her chin, and stopped. The music ended. For one long second, no one moved. No one breathed. Then the room exploded. Applause filled the hall. Loud, real, strong. People stood up. Some clapped with open mouths. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Some looked at Amara with respect for the first time. Richard pulled his hand away slowly. His face was pale. He looked around and realized something painful. Everyone was looking at her, not at him. Amara took a small step back. She did not bow. She did not smile. She simply stood there, calm and proud. A man from the crowd spoke softly. That style? I have seen it before. Another voice added, yes. Years ago, on a big stage. Whispers grew louder. Who is she? Where did she learn to dance like that? That is not just talent. Richard heard every word. Fear touched his chest. He remembered his promise. If you dance tango with me, I will marry you. He laughed then. Now, the words felt heavy. Very heavy. Amara looked at him. Her eyes were steady. Waiting. Not asking. Waiting. The guests slowly quieted down. All eyes moved between them. The rich, powerful man. The quiet maid. The power had shifted. Richard opened his mouth, but no words came out. For the first time in his life, he did not know what to say. And for the first time that night, Amara spoke again. Do you remember your words? She asked calmly. The hall fell silent. The question hung in the air like thunder before a storm. The dance was over, but the real test had just begun. The hall stayed silent after Amara's question. Do you remember your words? Richard felt every eye in the room fall on him. The music had stopped, but the tension was louder than sound. His chest felt tight. He had spoken those words as a joke, a cruel joke. Now they stood in front of him like a mirror. He forced a laugh. Come on, he said, waving his hand. This was just entertainment. But his voice did not sound strong. Amara did not move. She did not smile. She did not argue. She simply stood there, waiting. Her calm made the moment heavier. The guests whispered again, but this time the whispers were different. That was real talent. He looked scared. She embarrassed him without saying a word. Richard felt sweat on his neck. He tried to control the moment. He turned to the crowd. She surprised us all, he said quickly. Very impressive for a maid. The last two words hung in the air. Amara's eyes darkened slightly. Before she could speak, an older man stepped forward from the crowd. He wore a gray suit and held a cane. His eyes were sharp, full of memory. I know that dance style, the man said slowly. The room grew quiet again. I have seen it before, he continued. On a national stage. Many years ago. People turned toward him. Richard frowned. You must be mistaken, he said. The old man shook his head. No, I never forget true talent. He looked directly at Amara. Is your name Amara Collins? He asked. A soft shock moved through the room. Amara's breath paused for a moment. Yes, she replied. Gasps followed. That's impossible, someone whispered. She disappeared. She was famous. She won awards. Richard's heart dropped. He remembered the name now. Articles. News. A rising star who vanished overnight after a scandal. A scandal he never cared to understand. You're lying, Richard said, but his voice shook. Amara turned toward him. I never stopped being a dancer, she said calmly. I only stopped being seen. Silence returned. The guests looked at Richard, differently now. Their respect for him began to fade. His power felt smaller. The old man spoke again. You mocked her because of her uniform, not her ability. Richard felt trapped. He tried to smile. Fine, he said. So she danced well. That changes nothing. Amara took one slow step forward. It changes everything, she said. Richard's pride fought back. What do you want? He asked. Amara did not answer right away. She looked around the room, at the rich faces, the quiet guilt, the sudden respect. I want you to understand, she said. You judged me without knowing me. Richard scoffed. Life is not fair, he said. People play roles. Yes, Amara replied. And tonight, your role was revealed. A soft murmur moved through the crowd. Richard felt anger rise. You think one dance makes you powerful? He asked. Amara shook her head. No, truth does. The words hit him harder than the dance. He tried to change the subject. I can pay you, he said quickly. Name your price. Some guests frowned. Amara's expression did not change. I didn't dance for money, she said. I danced for dignity. The room felt heavy with emotion. Richard looked around. No one was laughing now. No one was supporting him. His pride began to crack. For the first time, he felt exposed. Small. Human. Amara turned away from him slightly, as if the answer no longer mattered. But before she could walk away, Richard spoke again. Wait, he said. His voice was softer, uncertain. You still haven't answered, he added. What do you want from me? Amara turned back. Her eyes were steady. Her voice was calm. I want you to keep your word, she said. A deep silence followed. Richard's face turned pale. Marriage. The word echoed in his mind. He had power, money, control, but now he had a promise. And the entire room was watching. His pride had ruled him for years. Tonight, it was beginning to break. The room felt heavy after Amara's words. I want you to keep your word. No one spoke. No one moved. Even the air felt still. Richard stood frozen. His mind raced. Marriage was never real to him. It was a joke, a weapon, a way to show power. But now, the joke had turned into a trap of his own making. He looked around the hall. The guests were no longer smiling. Some looked shocked. Some looked angry. Some looked ashamed. Their eyes were not on Amara's uniform anymore. They were on her strength. Richard cleared his throat. You know, I didn't mean it like that, he said. Amara tilted her head slightly. But you said it in front of everyone, she replied. Her voice was calm, not sharp. That calm made it harder for him to escape. The older man with the cane stepped forward again. Words matter, he said, especially when spoken with pride. Richard felt his chest tighten. A woman from the crowd spoke softly. Why did you disappear, Amara? All eyes turned to her. Amara took a slow breath. She had not planned to speak about her past. Not here, not like this. But the truth was already knocking. I disappeared because I was pushed, she said. The hall stayed silent. Years ago, Amara continued, I trusted people with power. They promised me a future. Fame. Respect. She paused. They used my talent. Then they blamed me when things went wrong. Murmurs spread through the crowd. They took my name, she said. They closed doors for me. No stage wanted me anymore. Richard listened closely now. His face was tense. I tried to fight, Amara said. But I was alone. No money. No voice. Her hands remained steady, but her eyes carried pain. So I worked where I could, she said. I cleaned floors that once watched me dance. The truth hit the room like a wave. Some guests looked down. Some wiped their eyes. The old man nodded slowly. I remember, he said. It was not your fault. Richard swallowed hard. For the first time, he felt real shame. You knew, he asked quietly. The old man looked at him. Many knew. Few cared. Richard looked back at Amara. His voice was lower now. Why didn't you tell anyone who you were? Amara answered simply. Because respect should not need a title. Her words cut deep. Richard felt small. I mocked you, he said, almost to himself. Yes, Amara replied. You did. He looked at her shoes. The old dance shoes. The symbol of everything she had lost and kept alive. I was wrong, Richard said. The word surprised everyone, including himself. He took a step closer. I judged you because of your uniform, he said. Because it made me feel bigger. The room stayed quiet. I don't deserve forgiveness, he added. But I am sorry. Amara studied his face. She looked for pride, for lies. She found fear. Fear of being exposed. Fear of losing control. Fear of truth. I did not come here for an apology, she said. I came here because you challenged my worth. Richard nodded slowly. What happens now, he asked. Amara turned toward the crowd. Now, she said, you see how easy it is to break someone with words. She looked back at Richard, and how hard it is to face them. Richard took a deep breath. I will make this right, he said quickly. Money. A stage. I can help you return. Some guests nodded. Others waited. Amara shook her head gently. I don't want favors, she said. I want truth. Richard frowned. What truth? Amara stepped back, giving him space. The truth is, she said, you don't own people. The crowd reacted softly. The truth is, she continued, talent does not belong to class. Her voice grew stronger. And the truth is, she said, your promise was not about marriage. It was about respect. Richard closed his eyes for a moment. He understood now. The dance was never the test. His character was. Amara looked at him one last time. The world will remember this night, she said. Not because of your wealth. She paused. But because of what you choose to do next. All eyes turned to Richard again. The truth was out. The masks were gone. And the final decision was close. What he did next would change everything. The silence in the hall felt endless. All eyes stayed on Richard. The rich guests, the quiet staff, the old man with the cane, everyone waited. The truth had been spoken. Now a choice had to be made. Richard took a slow breath. He looked at Amara, standing calm and steady in front of him. She did not look angry. She did not look hopeful. She looked free. I will fix this, Richard said at last. His voice was serious now, without jokes or pride. I can give you money, he continued. A lot of it. I can open doors again. I can bring you back to the stage. Some guests nodded in approval. That's generous, someone whispered. Richard felt stronger as he spoke. This was the language he knew best. Deals. Offers. Control. I can give you a new life, he said. Anything you want. Amara listened quietly. Then she shook her head. I don't want your money, she said. The room reacted with surprise. Richard frowned. Everyone wants money, he replied. It fixes problems. Amara's voice stayed calm. Money hides problems, she said. It does not fix them. The words struck deep. Richard felt frustrated. Then what do you want? He asked. Amara turned toward the guests. I want everyone to understand something, she said. She walked slowly across the dance floor. Her steps were light but firm. The crowd followed her with their eyes. When you laughed at me, she said, you showed who you were. Some guests shifted uncomfortably. When you recorded me, she continued, you forgot I am human. A few phones were lowered quietly. She turned back to Richard. And when you made that promise, she said, you believed I was powerless. Richard looked down. That is why your offer means nothing, Amara said. The room was silent again. Richard felt his chest tighten. He had given everything he knew how to give, and it was not enough. What about the promise? He asked carefully. Amara studied him. Do you understand it now? She asked. Richard hesitated. You want me to marry you? He said slowly. A soft reaction moved through the crowd. Amara smiled for the first time that night. But it was not a happy smile. No, she said. I want you to understand why you said it. Richard looked confused. You said to show power, Amara explained. To make me small. Her words were simple, but heavy. If I marry you, she continued, nothing changes. Richard swallowed. You will still be the man who laughed, she said. And I will still be the woman you judged. The truth settled deep. Richard felt exposed. Then Amara said something unexpected. I will not marry you. Gasps filled the hall. Richard looked up quickly. What? He asked. I don't want your name, Amara said. I don't want your house. I don't want your world. The crowd listened closely. I want my dignity, she said. And I already have it. Richard's face changed. His power slipped away completely. Then why did you ask me to keep my word? He asked. Amara stepped closer. Because I wanted you to feel what it is like, she said softly, to be trapped by your own words. The room fell silent. Richard closed his eyes. He understood now. The offer had failed. The money had failed. The power had failed. Only truth remained. Amara turned away from him. She faced the crowd one last time. Do not wait for talent to wear expensive clothes, she said. Do not wait for pain to speak loudly. Her voice was strong. Respect people before they prove their worth. The guests stood still. Some felt shame. Some felt inspired. Richard stood alone. Amara walked toward the exit. Her steps were steady. Behind her, Richard spoke one final time. You changed me tonight, he said. Amara did not turn back. That is not my job, she replied. That is yours. She opened the doors. Light filled the hallway. The hall stayed silent as she walked away. The offer had been made, but it changed nothing except the truth. Amara walked down the long hallway, her steps calm and steady. Behind her, the grand hall stayed silent. No music, no laughter, only the echo of truth. She did not look back. For the first time in many years, she felt light. Inside the hall, Richard stood frozen. The doors had closed, but the moment had not ended. Every guest was still there, watching him, waiting. The power he once owned fell gone. The old man with the cane spoke first. She taught us something tonight, he said quietly. A woman nodded. Yes, and we failed her before she even spoke. Richard lowered his head. His reflection stared back at him from the shiny floor. A man rich in money, poor in character. She walked away. Someone whispered. From everything. Richard took a slow breath. She didn't need us, he said softly. He turned to the guests. I mock her, he admitted. Not because she was weak, but because I was. The word surprised even him. No one laughed. No one clapped. They listened. I used my power like a weapon, Richard continued. Tonight, it turned against me. Some guests looked away. Others nodded. I will not forget this, Richard said, and I will not hide it. The old man stepped forward. What will you do now, he asked. Richard thought for a moment. I will speak the truth, he said. About her. About what happened to her career. About my behavior. Murmurs moved through the room. I will fund a foundation, Richard added. Not in my name. In hers. The guests reacted with surprise. A dance foundation, he continued. For talent that gets ignored. For people judged too early. Silence followed. This time, it felt different. Outside, Amara stepped into the cool night air. The city lights shone softly around her. She removed her dance shoes and held them in her hands. She smiled, not because she had won, but because she had chosen herself. A young staff member ran after her. Miss Amara, she said nervously. Wait. Amara turned. They're all talking about you, the girl said. They finally see you. Amara nodded. Seeing is not enough, she replied. Understanding takes time. The girl hesitated. Will you dance again? She asked. Amara looked up at the sky. Yes, she said, but on my own terms. Days later, the story spread everywhere. Not as gossip, as a lesson. People talked about the millionaire who lost control. About the maid who owned the room without owning anything. About the dance that became a mirror. A few weeks passed. Amara stood inside a small, bright dance studio. Young dancers surrounded her. Different colors. Different stories. Same dreams. She watched them move. She smiled. Her voice was gentle but strong. Dance is not about being perfect, she said. It is about being honest. In another part of the city, Richard sat alone in his office. The walls were empty. The noise was gone. He watched a video on his phone, not of the dance, but of Amara teaching. He did not smile. He nodded. He had learned. One evening, Amara received a letter. No name. No address. Inside, only one line. Thank you for reminding me that respect comes before power. She folded the letter and placed it away. She did not need it. Her life was moving forward. The world would remember that night. Not because a maid danced with a millionaire, but because a woman refused to be small. Because dignity won over pride. Because silence turned into strength. And because sometimes the most shocking ending is not marriage. It is freedom.